evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says the transatlantic military alliance will strengthen its support for Ukraine. Gabon President Ali Bongo appoints Prime Minister Rose Christian Osoka Raponda as Vice President. Officials in California have issued an immediate evacuation order for the waterlogged city of Montecito. My name is Okweyemioni. North America Treaty Organization Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says the transatlantic military alliance must further strengthen its support for Ukraine. Mr. Stoltenberg stated this in a news conference, adding that Russian President Vladimir Putin has failed in his attempts to divide Western allies over the conflict. Mr. Stoltenberg also stated that Finland and Sweden will soon join the transatlantic military alliance, and all NATO allies will ratify the accession protocols in their parliaments. NATO allies have supplied Ukraine with billions of dollars of military support since Moscow launched its invasion in February.
Finland and Sweden and membership of NATO. I'm confident that the accession process will be finalized and that all NATO allies will ratify the accession protocols in the parliaments, and that also goes for Turkey. But let me start by just reminding you all about what has happened so far. This has been so far the quickest accession process in NATO's modern history. We have to remember that normally accession processes into NATO takes years. Finland and Sweden applied in May last year. Already in July, all 30 allies, including Turkey, decided to invite Finland and Sweden to become full members of NATO, and all 30 allies also signed the accession protocols. And so far, 28 out of 30 allies have already ratified. This is quicker than ever before in NATO's modern.
The European Union has announced it will impose new sanctions on Belarus, a key ally of Moscow, as it keeps up the pressure on Russia to end its war in Ukraine. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen made an announcement at a news conference stating that the Union will keep pressure on the Kremlin for as long as it takes. She said the Union will extend Biden's sanctions regime to those who militarily support Russia's war, such as Belarus or Iran. She also accused China of trying to disrupt the world order with its action in the Taiwan Strait.
The most immediate, but they are not the only ones. We also witnessed China increasingly attempting to reshape the international order to its benefits. So we must bolster our own resilience. And with this new joint declaration, we are also taking our partnership to the next level.
A Russian warship armed with hypersonic cruise weapons has held exercises in the Norwegian Sea. The Russian Defense Ministry disclosed this, stating that the crew of a frigate admiral of a fleet of the Soviet Union Goshkov has conducted air defense exercise in the sea. Last week, President Vladimir Putin had sent the frigate to the Atlantic Ocean armed with new generation hypersonic cruise missiles, a signal to the West that Russia would not back down over the war in Ukraine. In the United Kingdom, the government has outlined laws to ensure some public service workers continue to work during strike action. Making a statement in the Commons, Business Secretary Graham Shapps said the bill would protect lives and livelihoods by maintaining minimum service levels. The proposed law is expected to cover health and education services, as well as transport and fire and rescue services. It comes amidst a wave of industrial action as workers seek pay rises in the face of a rising cost of living. Unions have, however, pledged to fight the proposed minimum service legislation through the courts.
So I'm introducing a bill that will give government the power to ensure that vital public services will have to maintain a basic function by delivering minimum safety levels, ensuring that lives and livelihoods are not lost. Mr. Speaker, we're looking at 6 key areas, each of them critical for keeping the British people safe and society functioning. These are health, education, fire, rescue, transport, border security and nuclear decommissioning. We do not want to use this legislation, but we must ensure the safety of the British public. Absolutely. During the passage of the bill, we intend to consult on what an adequate level of coverage looks like in fire, ambulance and in rail services. For the other sectors covered in the bill, we hope to reach minimum service agreements that mean that we don't have to use that power in the bill, and they will be able to come to that position just as the nurses have done in the recent strike.
While UK Labour Party Deputy Leader Angela Rayner has accused the British government of this disastrous chaos and says it needs to address staffing and pay in the public sector. Ms. Rayner said the proposed legislation to ensure some public service workers continue to work during strike will lead to the sacking of nurses and is an outright attack on the fundamental freedom of British working people. She accuses the government of playing politics with nurses and teachers' lives because they cannot stomach the cooperation and negotiation that is needed.
Claims he made progress yesterday, but the readout from the trade union representatives was dismal. Is there any chance of a deal this year? Where is the consultation or meaningful way forward he mentioned? Or was this all for show? Because that is the implication of his other proposal, his sacking nurses bill. An outright attack on the fundamental freedom of British working people. How can he say with a straight face that this government will always defend the ability to strike? Can he tell us if he stands by his article in the Telegraph last summer listing yet more plans to attack that basic right? Does he deny they considered banning some key workers from joining the union at all? And so much for levelling up workers' rights, Mr. Speaker. And where is their promised code of conduct on the fire and rehire, long abandoned employment bill that they promised to tackle insecure work? How he goes on with one breath thanking nurses to sacking nurses, Mr. Speaker. Not just insulting, but utterly.
The first attempt to launch a satellite from Western Europe appears to have failed after an anomaly was reported to have prevented the rocket from reaching orbit. Virgin Orbit, owned by consortium including the United Kingdom Space Agency and British airline tycoon Richard Branson, was attempting to send 9 small satellites into space from a 21-meter rocket attached beneath the wing of a modified Boeing 747 aircraft. The proposed jumbo jet took off from the coastal town of Newquay in southwest England at 22:02 GMT yesterday, with the rocket detaching from the aircraft and igniting over the Atlantic Ocean at an altitude of 10,670 meters about an hour and 20 minutes later. But Virgin Orbit, in a statement, said there had been an anomaly that has prevented the satellite from reaching orbit, adding that it would provide more information in due time. Also reacting, the Chief Executive Officer of Cornwall's Goon Ely Earth Station, Aaron Jones, said they are yet to identify what exactly went wrong.
So well last night, the fueling of the rocket, the takeoff from Newquay spaceport, and the travel of the 747 Cosmic Girl out to what we call the racetrack just south of Ireland in the Atlantic Ocean, and then even the launch of the rocket itself and the firing of the first stage all went absolutely perfectly. We had a couple of antennas at Goonhilly, from Goonhilly, one located in Ireland and one actually at the spaceport itself, tracking the telemetry, so everything was looking great. But then something happened. We don't know exactly what yet. Virgin Orbit are analysing the data, but something happened with the second stage, that stage that boosts the satellites right up into orbit, and they didn't make it, unfortunately.
In Africa, Gabon's President Ali Bongo has appointed the country's first female Prime Minister, Rose Christine Osuka-Raponda, to the role of Vice President. The Secretary General to the President, Jean Vestel, made the announcement in a video yesterday, stating that the President also appointed Alain Claude Billy Benzi as the new Prime Minister. It disclosed that the former Defense Minister, Osuka-Raponda, who had been appointed Premier in July 2020, after a predecessor stepped down, will now assist the head of state, Billy Benze, a close ally of President Bongo, will replace Osunko Ponda and form a new government. Rwandan President Paul Kagame says his country will no longer offer refuge to people fleeing conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Decades of instability in the east of the country have forced scores of refugees across the border into Rwanda. He said the rest of the world had completely missed the point when it came to eastern DR Congo. In his view, the real threat to security is what he describes as the remnant of Hutu extremist forces who tried to wipe out a Tutsi ethnic group in the 1994 genocide.
We warned people, and I want to warn people today, when shells were crossing our border and landing on our territory. There is a lot we said about it. When FDLR crossed our border and killed people in Kinigi, literally shutting down that area rich in tourism. And that was the purpose. And of course, the immediate response of those outsiders is to say, don't go to Rwanda, don't go to that area. And then when I do something about it, it's like, no, you are doing a terrible thing. Oh, you want me to keep quiet? Those people close that area, will lose everything and lose people's lives. And then say, oh, if you do this, we shall blame you. Well, I'll give you what to blame me for in real sense.
Amnesty International has urged Algeria to annul death penalties against dozens of people over the lynching of a man falsely accused of starting deadly forest fires. A court in November sentenced 49 people to death for the 2021 lynching of 38-year-old Jamel Ben Ismail outside a police station in the Tizi Kuzu region. Amnesty's regional deputy head, Amna Gwelali, made the call, noting that the meting out of the death penalty is never justifiable, no matter the offense committed. She further revealed that the hearings were marred by fair trial violations as well as claims of torture, while at least 6 of those sentenced were prosecuted due to their political affiliations. However, the sentences are unlikely to be carried out as the North African country has maintained a moratorium on capital punishment since 1993. Outside Africa, United Nations Human Rights Commission says the flurry of death sentences handed down following the outbreak of civil unrest in Iran amount to state-sanctioned killings. The Commission revealed that the executions violate international human rights law. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk made this known in a statement stating that the executions are being used to strike fear into the population and stamp out dissent. He added that the UN Human Rights Office has received information that 2 further executions are imminent. On Saturday, Iran hanged 2 men convicted of killing a member of the security forces during nationwide protest sparked by Mahsa Amini's death in police custody in September. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
According to the words of Michael Forbes, one who never asks questions either knows everything and nothing. Watch me as I ask the questions you think no one wants to answer. Even questions it appears no one has got the guts to ask. My name is Femi Adifula and I've got the gut. Let's ask the pertinent questions and watch as we get answers.
You're welcome back on Spring Global on Western Spring Television. And now to the rest of the stories. In the U.S., officials in Santa Barbara County, California, have issued an immediate evacuation order for the waterlogged city of Montecito as torrential rains and high winds continue to batter the west coast of the United States. Nearly 10,000 people are set to be displaced in and around the wealthy coastal enclave nestled between the Pacific Ocean and surrounding hilly areas. Santa Barbara County Sheriff Bill Crow explained that the decision to evacuate was based on the continuing high rate of rainfall, stating that there was no indication that it was going to change soon. Officials from the governor's office on Monday increased the death toll of the storms from 12 to 14 as residents experienced flooding, downed power lines, and falling trees. Tens of thousands of people in Brazil have held pro-democracy rallies in an angry response to the storming of Congress by ex-President Jair Bolsonaro's supporters. In the country's largest city of Sao Paulo, crowds chanted that Mr. Bolsonaro must go to prison. About 1,500 people have been held over Sunday's riots in the capital, Brasilia. They came a week after President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva was sworn in after October's election that divided Brazil. Yesterday evening, the 77-year-old new leader visited the damaged buildings of Congress, the Presidential Palace, and Supreme Court together with the country's governors condemning the terrorist acts and vowing to punish the perpetrators. Mr. Bolsonaro has not admitted defeat in the tightly fought election and flew to the U.S. before the handover on 1st of January. Yesterday, he was admitted to hospital in Florida with abdominal pain. At least 17 people have died in clashes between supporters of the former president and security forces in southeastern Peru. Officials say dozens more were injured in the city of Juliaca in some of the worst violence since ex-President Pedro Castillo was arrested last month for trying to dissolve Congress. His supporters have been protesting and blockading roads for weeks. They say new President Dina Boluarte must go and want snap elections. Prime Minister Alberto Otarola denounced the clashes in Juliaca, describing them as an organized attack on police. He said thousands of people had tried to overrun the city's airport and a local police station. The United Nations Security Council has voted unanimously to keep a key border crossing from Turkey to Syria's rebel-held northwest open for critical aid deliveries for another 6 months. In a surprise move, Syria's ally Russia supported the resolution during yesterday's vote. Authorization by the 15-member council is needed because Syrian authorities did not agree to the humanitarian operation, which has delivered food, medicine, shelters, and other aid to opposition-controlled areas of Syria since 2014. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said after the vote that cross-border humanitarian operations remain an indispensable lifeline for 4.1 million people in northwest Syria. The UN chief stressed that the vote comes as humanitarian needs have reached the highest levels since the start of the conflict in 2011, with people in Syria grappling with a harsh winter and a cholera outbreak.
The result of the voting is as follows. The draft resolution received 15 votes in favor.
China has stopped issuing short-term visas to South Koreans after Seoul imposed travel restrictions on travelers from China amid concerns about the outbreak of COVID-19 in the country. It is Beijing's first retaliatory move against countries that have introduced new measures on arrivals from China, which suddenly abandoned its strict zero-COVID policy in December. The Chinese embassy in a statement said all Chinese embassies and consulates in Korea would suspend the issuance of short-term visas for Korean citizens. The embassy explained that the measures will be adjusted in line with South Korea's removal of the discriminatory entry restrictions on China. The announcement comes a day after Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang expressed concern about the restrictions in a telephone call with his South Korean counterpart, Park Jin. South Korea is among countries, including Australia, France, and United States, that have introduced measures targeting travelers from China amid concerns about a lack of transparency in official data, including the emergence of new variants. Myanmar has jailed 112 people, including 12 children from the minority Rohingya, after they were caught attempting to leave the country. The state-run Global New Light of Myanmar made this known, stating that the court in Bogali in the southern Ayeyarwady region of Myanmar sentenced the group on January 6. The agency disclosed that the group was arrested in December after they were discovered on a motorboat without any official document. It revealed that out of the 12 children, 5 were under the age of 13 and sentenced to 2 years, and older children to 3 years. Other than that, adults were all jailed for 5 years. The mostly Muslim Rohingya are denied citizenship and other basic rights in Buddhist majority Myanmar, which claims the illegal migrants from South Asia. In business, Qatar's stock market is set to welcome its first initial public offering in nearly 3 years in a test of new regulations that Doha has introduced, hoping to compete with more active exchanges in the region. It serves firm Mesa could raise up to 911 million riyals, about $249 million, when it launches its IPO on January 15th, through the sales of 50% of its shares under a new book building process in Qatar that allows companies to offer a price range to test investor appetite and determine pricing. Qatar, the world's top LNG exporter and host of the FIFA World Cup 2022, is turning its attention to diversifying its economy away from gas. That strategy includes building its equities market by opening it up to a wider investor base and introducing more listings. United States Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has chaired a meeting of finance ministers from Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. Britain's finance ministry disclosed this in a statement, stating that the ministers shared perspective on global economic challenges. The ministry said Yellen used the meeting to discuss the need for close collaboration and develop greater resilience against global supply chain issues caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The meeting also reflected on the distinct challenges stemming from Russia's illegal and unprovoked war against Ukraine. In sport, Nigeria midfielder Ogeyi Onazi has joined Bahrain Premier League outfit East River Sports Club. Onazi joined East River from Italian Serie D outfit Satana FC. The 30-year-old trained with Nigeria Professional Football League outfit Remo Stars last month, fueling speculations that it could be set for a return home. A combative midfielder has struggled to stay fit in recent years. Aston Villa has agreed a fee with Real Betis, believed to be around £12.5 million for defender Alex Moreno. The left back is due to fly to Birmingham tomorrow to undergo a medical and discuss personal terms. Moreno had not travelled with the rest of the Betis squad to Saudi Arabia for the Spanish Super Cup. Before we end Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. North America Treaty Organization Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says the transatlantic military alliance must further strengthen its support for Ukraine. Gabon's President Ali Bongo has appointed the country's first female Prime Minister, Rose Christian Osonka-Raponda, to the role of Vice President. Officials in Santa Barbara County, California, have issued an immediate evacuation order for the waterlogged city of Montecito as torrential rains and high winds continue to batter the west coast of the United States. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Okpayemioni. Thanks for watching.